Alright, so now we're getting back. I'm going to start talking briefly on the project report forms, or you'll hear me call them PRFs. First of all, how is it different from PRF? Well, the first one is that it's specific to a single 4-H project. This is just a small glimpse of your 4-H year on one specific project. It also changes every year, so you're going to only include the things that happened that 4-H year. And it is optional, but I highly recommend that you do at least one of them because it is just so helpful on working on all sorts of different things. It is also really helpful when working on all sorts of different things because, again, these forms are specifically designed to encourage your activity and your growth in a single 4-H project. There are two different kinds of project report forms, and these are the animal and the general. They're a little bit different. The animal just has a little bit more information that you need to keep track of because it just tracks a few different things. You also have to be officially enrolled in the 4-H project in order to do a PRF for that project. But that does not mean that just because you're enrolled in a project means that you have to do a PRF for every single project that you're enrolled in. Also, it comes in different levels. Unlike the permanent record, where you just have one set level, there's actually 3 different levels, and those are junior, intermediate, and senior. The junior level is ages 7 to 9, intermediate is 10 to 13, and senior is ages 14 to 18. And they all include the same information, but they are a little bit more detailed as you get higher up, and they also kind of just add a little bit more depth and more information for you to put in. PRF is a detailed record of your involvement in just one single 4-H project. It contains lots of different sections that are not all present in the permanent record. And again, it just has a different forms for the 3 different age ranges. Alright, so now we're getting into the main PRF sections. The first one is your goals. This is really easy to keep track of. These are all slides that are taken directly from the senior level, but it is still the same information and all the same sections that you need to keep track of. So with goals, there's a few things that you're going to want to note, and it is spelled out a little bit easier in the junior and intermediate levels. By senior, they expect you to have a lot of experience in this, but you want to make sure that you keep track of certain pieces of information in this, like your timetable, as well as what you want to do. All right, what is your goal for this? Also, one more thing to keep track of is who's going to help you. Are you going to have someone else that is going to aid you in performing this? And then, of course, you're going to add a check if you accomplish it. And I do not have a slide for this, but there is also going to be a section 2, which is presentations. And that's nice and easy. It's already in section 2 of your permanent record, so you can find things from there and put it in. And then section 3 is going to be your learning opportunities. You're going to have to keep track of when it happened. Again, a month should be fine if it occurred over the course of several project meetings or something. You want to note both what you did and what you learned. So if you have one experience and you really feel like you learned something from it, it could be even like gaining a skill. It doesn't have to be just knowledge. And then level. They have a handy little chart on the top which will tell you what the different levels are. So it's a little bit more technical than in the permanent record. And there's also a section 4, which is any exhibits. Again, this is in section 2. It should be nice and easy. And if you have any questions about these, it should be really easy. It's really put out into the PRF. it is really put out into the PRF really plainly, and they do just such a great job explaining it. So I'll be happy to answer any questions after the seminar, but if you go home and you forgot to ask me a question, don't freak out, because I'm sure that if you look really hard, it really does a great job explaining a lot of these. All right, now section 5, this is your leadership opportunities. We went over this earlier, so I'm not going to touch on what counts as leadership, but basically it includes what you did. So you have to know what you did and how it's leadership oriented. And again, your dates, and then the size and scope. So it could be how many classes did you lead? How many people did you mentor? You're also going to want to note how long it took and any other information that really should go down there. And then you also have to take care of the level, and it's nice and easy. Again, there's a handy chart at the top which tells you everything. There's also section 6, which is your citizenship. This is anything that you did without getting anything in return. You're also going to want to note the date and what you did. So if it is something that's super important to you, that you feel like someone else benefited from, then feel free to just put it on your permanent record. But also put it on your PRF. You're also going to want to note the time given. This is not optional, like on the permanent record. So you're going to have to put something on there. So it could be whether you bought something. Just because you bought something, and it wasn't really a giving of your time, you still have to put something in there. So just get as close as you can. It doesn't need to be super exact. And then the level again. And now section 7 is your finances. It's really straightforward, whether you lost money or you won money in maybe a competition. But it's nice and easy. Just make sure that it's only finances that are related to that one project. And moving on to section 8, we have your story. So they also call this your project reflection. This is one thing that you're going to really want to take care of a little bit later in the year, because you won't have that experiences, you won't have those information right at the beginning of the 4-H year, because it's in the PRF and it is specific to just one 4-H year. So you're going to have to take care of those a little bit later in the 4-H year, maybe after fair is when I start doing mine, but it is really easy. You just gotta make sure that you include any experiences that you did, anything that you feel like was a big part of your 4-H year should definitely be in that. It's a brief overview of your entire 4-H year, right? You're going to have a new story every single year. And I like to keep the same formatting for mine, but your experiences and your reflections are all going to be different. Section 9 is going to be all of your pictures. You're going to need different numbers of pictures depending on your level. Juniors are going to have 1 page, just 6 of them. You don't need to fill in all of the boxes with pictures, but it is more complete, more information on your record book, the better it is for when they're being judged. It's just one, so for junior, it's just going to be 1 page of 6, and of all 2 from learning, 2 from leadership, and 2 from citizenship. Intermediate, you're going to get 2 pages. 1 page is for learning, so 6 pictures for learning, And then the second page is going to be shared between leadership and citizenship. But by the time that you get to senior, you're going to have 3 full pages, as many as are in your permanent record. And so that's going to be 6 images per page. And you're going to have 1 page of each leadership, learning, and citizenship. One more thing that you're going to need to put in with your record book, your permanent record, is going to be this project recognition check sheet. So basically, you need to make sure that you add this, and it's really simple. It's an entire check sheet, and you just have to check off the box when you put it into your record book. You cannot forget this when you turn in to be judged. Actually, the first thing on it is your record book check sheet. You also have to include your personal information page. You need to make sure they have all the appropriate signatures, an up-to-date picture, all that, as well as your report form. And you're going to put each of your PRS into a separate binder. You're also going to need your permanent record. I like to divide this by one of those tabs, but you don't need to. Just make sure that it's added in there and it's separate. Now I have a couple of different tips and tricks. The first one is, can you guess it? Write it down as it happens. Do not procrastinate this. It will be so much easier to do if you do it as it happens. If you're filling in all this information and you're gathering it all up throughout the entire year. You want to set your goals early. This helps because they're always going to be in the back of your mind. All right, this is what I need to do, right? And once you set those goals, stick to them. Like I said earlier when I started talking about your story, after fair, you want to start cleaning up all the rough edges and then begin working on your story. Again, you want to wait a little bit until you have those experiences to start writing about them in your project reflection in your story. And you can always reference your permanent record for content, right? It's all that's going to be in your permanent record. All right, and now I have a little bit about how both your permanent record and your PRF are going to get judged. So this is a picture of the club member record book score sheet. So basically, it's just a check sheet with your name and the year. You will not be providing this, but I think that it's a very good resource for you 4-Hers to have, because it tells you exactly what you need for that 4-H year. It's a very objective way to score your permanent record. You're going to receive a seal based on how many check marks you have, and at the bottom of the page, it even says what seal you're going to get based on how many check marks you have. Again, it's very objective. Either you have these things or you don't. And it's very nice for you to have just like lying around, maybe in your school binder, somewhere easy for you to get to it so that you can check it off as soon as you've done it. And that way you can keep that up to date. This is your project report evaluation score sheet. This is how your PRS are all going to get judged. So the PRS are all going to get judged by the county, but the permanent records are all going to be judged by club leaders. So when the county judges this, they're going to have certain judges. They're going to come in and they're going to give you a certain number of points. And in each section, there's going to be a certain number of points that are associated with that section that you can get. At the bottom, you're going to have all those add up, and you're going to have a score out of 100. And in the junior and intermediate levels, this is not super important, but it is good to have higher, and that's how it's all going to be judged. But at the senior level, it is going to be, that number is going to be competing directly with the number of other people that are in that project that did that same project report form. So you're going to want to get that as high as you can, because the person that wins, that has the highest number, is going to get to move on to the next level, to regional. That is all that I have for you. Thank you for coming and watching and listening to me talk for so long. But all these forms and all the information is going to be on the Johnson County K-State Research and Extension website. And I have that link up on the screen, but everything that you need should be in those handouts. Thank you. I have examples of all of the record books off to the side in the back, and me and my club leaders are going to be happily answering your questions. Thank you.